Hello, my name is Calvin Gross. I teach here at Adams High School. I am a retired United States Army Reservist. I have over 30 years in the military. I've been on one deployment. I was in South Korea in 2013-2014. It was a peacetime deployment where I was a SHARP program manager there, and I worked with 8th Army, and I really enjoyed that experience too.
I served in the U.S. Marine Corps in the Persian Gulf in Operation Restore Hope in Mogadishu, Somalia.
My name is Mike Holtz. I'm a tech sergeant in the Air Force. I'm a bomb tech or munition journeyman systems apprentice. And what we do is, or what I do is I make bombs and missiles for the fighter jets. We put them together, we take them apart, we make sure they get stored in a proper facility. We're in charge of all the logistics and accountability for any asset that goes on an aircraft or any bullet that is used out at the Air Force base that I'm stationed at Selfridge. The conflicts that I've been a part of, I've been in Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2004. I went to Kirkuk, Iraq. In 2011, I went to Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan, Kandahar Air Base. And then back in 2015 for Operation Inherent Resolve against ISIS and some of their other terrorist organizations. We were based out of Kuwait, and what we did there is had our aircraft go into Iraq and Syria to help stop bad guys from hurting good guys.
I started the military through ROTC program at Western Michigan University. I got involved in the program because my roommates in college were part of the program, and I thought that was an important piece. I really enjoyed them and as my roommates, and that's how I got involved with the military. My father and my grandfather both were in the military. My grandfather retired in the active duty component. My dad served 7 years as a military police, and so that also intrigued me where I wanted to get involved with the military.
Oh, a lot of things. I was always enamored with the Marine Corps. I really liked the Marine Corps' model of leadership, and it's something I wanted to be a part of.
I've always been a person that's always liked to stick up for the people that need to be stuck up for. So that kid in class that got bullied and you know, might not have a lot of friends. I was always one of those people to kind of befriend that person. But in my family, my dad was a colonel in the Army, and you know, the way we were raised was to do that sort of thing. So kind of since I was a young kid, it was something that was around on the regular. But as I got older, and then September 11th happened, between my three brothers and I, and my father, it was told that all four sons are going to continue the family tradition and do our part. The only difference is we went Air Force, and my dad was in the Army. And I'm kind of glad that we did, because I'm a little bit of a pretty boy, and we get air conditioning and better food and better housing, things along those lines.
Okay. When I went to college at Western Michigan, I knew I wanted to be a teacher. I love coaching. I love working with students and so forth. And so I actually knew that I was going to become a teacher prior to going into the military. So I had my 2 years of college education ready to, to get involved in education. And then the ROTC program was a 2-year program that I got involved with. So I knew that I was going to become a teacher prior to me going into the military as an Army reservist.
Oh, my love of teaching and my love of serving young people.
Well, what I like to do is, again, take care of those that can't fight for themselves. So on top of being in the military, I was a stockbroker for many years, and a lot of people are kind of overwhelmed, they're intimidated by the financial industry. It was something that kind of always came naturally to me. Also with my coaching, I like to give back to my community and not forget where I came from and those that helped me along the way. And Rochester Adams, not only being my high school, but also being a part of the Rochester Adams wrestling program and being given the opportunity to be the head coach of that program for going on 11 years now. This is something that, again, kind of has to do with giving back, and something I'm pretty passionate about. I love helping people, and that kind of gets me amped up to hopefully instill positive energy and stick up for those who need to be stuck up for, and based on how that goes, hopefully they get inspired and motivated to do the same down the road when they're in a position to do so.
That one's a tough one because there's a lot of good things that happened within my 30 years in the Army Reserves. I met a lot of good people. I met a lot of people that you would consider heroes that actually fought in battles and so forth. They're really good people in the military, and I was honored to work with them. My 1 year in South Korea was an important one where I worked as a SHARP program manager. Again, I worked with heroes in the military, the active duty component, dealing with something that's been a big part of the military in the last 4 or 5 years in sexual harassment and sexual assault. So that time in Korea was an important piece for me. I learned a lot about people, and both males and females in the military, and that would probably be one of the biggest achievements in my career, my 30 years, is that 1 year my deployment in South Korea working in that program.
Well, there's a lot of things that I learned. I learned about being mission focused. I learned about treating people with dignity and respect. The most important thing I learned in the military is never ask anyone to do anything you wouldn't do yourself.
The number one thing I learned is to appreciate how fortunate we really are to live where we live. I've been to a lot of bad places throughout the world. I've been to a lot of great places throughout the world. But one thing I think every student or every person should take a minute to really think about is how fortunate we are to live where we live and have the freedoms and the ability to do what we want to do when we want to do it.
I would say think about it and do it for the right reasons, and that it's a decision that an adult makes.
You know, one thing that we as veterans appreciate is when we're thanked for our service, which is, nowadays everyone supports the troops, which is great. But maybe instead of thanking a veteran for their service, which is again always appreciated by us, maybe donate some time or money, or maybe think about having a family member or even yourself joining the military down the road. Now I realize, being a high school student, you probably don't have a lot of money or you can't join the military yet because you're not 18. But when you're out with your friends, walking through the mall or at the diner or the restaurant, and you see that older veteran who's sitting by himself wearing his veteran's hat, instead of just sitting there and talking with your friends the whole time, maybe go over and introduce yourself. Thank that veteran for their service, and maybe ask them to hear a little bit about their story and have them share a little bit about their journey in the military. One thing that unfortunately I think happens is, as we all get older, if they do have children, they have their own families and things along those lines, and I think a lot of the older veterans are somewhat forgotten, not on purpose, but just through life and what takes place there. They want to talk, they want to share their story, and I think it gives them a nice highlight and brings back stories about what they were doing when they were in the military, and what they can take away, and the proud moments that they endured, fighting for our freedom and committing their time and effort and sacrifice for the country.